Happy Monday. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? Happy New Week. How was your weekend? This weekend, I did something that I had never done before. I volunteered for a youth lock in. Oh my gosh. Crazy, right? Listen, we're just going to jump right into it because I want to start today. I want to start this conversation today with a question. And I want you to really think about it for a second. Have you ever come across someone's content and thought to yourself, whoa, this girl is killing it? Like, her branding is beautiful, her graphics are on point, the videos that she posts, they're clean and well edited, the captions are thoughtful and well written, the comment section is popping. So on the surface, everything about her presence, it looks established and polished and professional. And then you find out that this person is not making any money. Or maybe she's making some money, but nowhere near what you'd expect given how her content looks from the outside. And then meanwhile, you've got someone else out here with half the audience. And honestly, the content is nowhere near as polished. She doesn't have any viral moments. She's not doing anything real flashy. And somehow she is booked out. She is signing clients. She is selling. Revenue is coming in hand over fist. And you're looking at both of these women and you're thinking, how does any of this make sense? Have you come across content like that? Have you come across content like that? Okay, I'm trying to figure out why my chat is disabled. Sorry, y'all. I won't be asking y'all to drop nothing in the chat this time, but thank you for joining. I see you in the house, in the building on YouTube. How does that make any sense? Because that disconnect right there, that is what we're going to be talking about today. Because I think one of the biggest lies that social media has sold to online creators and to people who are building online businesses is the idea that good content and profitable content are the same thing, and they are not. They're not. I literally just posted a on-demand video on my YouTube channel this past Thursday. I think it dropped. And it talked about the fact that I had accumulated nearly 20 million video views on YouTube and I didn't have consistent income. But it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. So if you missed that video, I encourage you to go watch that video on my YouTube channel. But the point of it is building a business and creating content can be two completely different things. So that's what we're going to be talking about, because if you're building a business online, the distinction between that, it matters more than almost anything else I feel I can talk to you about, because content continues to be king. Okay. Consistency is queen, but content continues to be king. And content that gets attention and content that generates revenue, they're not doing the same thing. They're doing two completely different jobs. And if you understand that difference, you will start making more money. But if you don't understand that difference, you will spend months, sometimes years, creating content that looks successful while your bank account is telling you a completely different story. I have experienced this myself. I'll talk a little bit more about it in this episode. But before I get into it, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott. I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We are an online education platform where we help professional women turn their existing skills into coaching income, digital products, and online businesses so they can build multiple streams of income beyond one paycheck. And if you've ever felt like you've been consistently posting, you're showing up regularly, you're doing all the things that the experts tell you to do, but you're still not seeing any real income generating from your content, this episode is for you. So if you haven't already, I would invite you to go get your notebook and your pen or whatever it is that you take notes on. I want you to text the link to this video to your biz bestie, drop it in the group chat, and stay with me today because I am about to get into this thing. I have been creating content on these here internets since 2008, in case you didn't know. So corporate career was built on marketing, branding, and content strategy. So I'm not going to be talking about theory. I'm going to be talking about what I have learned through experience, my own personal experience, and also working with all of the women that I have worked with on their online businesses. And I want to start by talking about something that I think a lot of creators feel, but they don't say it loud. And that is content creation gives you a lot of ways, again, to feel, FEEL, to feel productive without moving the needle in your business. Feel, we always talk about feelings and what feels like a business, right? Versus what is actually a business. So we're going to be talking about this, that the fact that content creation, it makes you feel real productive in your business, but it doesn't always move the needle. So think about what the process looks like. So you could spend an hour on one reel for Instagram, right? You will pick out the perfect audio, you edit it, you edit that video, you create a beautiful cover graphic, you spend time, working with your AI assistants and writing captions, and then you post it. And then almost immediately after you post it, if this is you, drop it in the comments. If you're watching the replay, if this is you, you post the reel after you've done all this work, post it, and then you immediately start checking it. Are you guilty of that? Raise your hand if you're guilty. I'm guilty. I'm raising my hand because I have done this before. 20 minutes after you post that reel, you check it again. And then the night before, at night before you go to bed, you check it again. And then by the next morning, you're completely invested in, whether or not a bunch of people that you have never met before tapped a tiny heart on their phone screen. Like you're like, ooh, how many people watched it? How many views do I have? How many people liked it? How many comments did I get? Listen, if that is you, know that you're not alone. I have been there. I have done that. I have been there. I have done that. Most people are in this space. And I'm not saying it to be harsh. I'm saying it because we've all done it. And it's important to understand why we've done it. I mean, not the psychological, scientific aspect of this conversation. You know how they say when somebody likes your post on Instagram, it's the equivalent of getting high and that dopamine rush and that happy feeling that you get. I'm not getting into that. I'm getting into the side of this where it makes us feel a certain way when it comes to our business or not about our business. Okay. So here's the thing, when it comes to the business and why we are constantly, as a business owner, why we can get caught up in that loop is because social media gives us immediate feedback. So outside of all the scientific evidence that they say social media does when you get a like or a follow or whatever, social media from a business perspective, it gives us immediate feedback. And the problem is that it gives us an immediate feedback on the wrong things. Like, instantly whether or not people liked your post because you can clearly see how many people liked your post, right? You know right away whether or not people watch your video. And within hours whether engagement was strong or weak, right? But what you don't know? What takes longer for you to see, and it's whether or not that content is building trust, is positioning you as an expert, is attracting the right audience, or creating buyer behavior with your audience. And those results are slow. And because they're slow, a lot of business owners, they start optimizing for what they can see right in front of them and right now instead of what actually builds their business. And that's how you end up with someone who's incredibly skilled at getting attention and incredibly stuck when it comes to generating revenue. Not because this person is not talented or because she's lazy. It's because she's been rewarded for the wrong thing. Because social media platforms reward engagement. Literally, they will promote your content and start to prioritize your content strictly based on engagement, not conversions, not the income or the revenue coming into your bank account. Platforms, these social media platforms are designed to reward engagement. When you really truly need, as a business owner, as someone who is running an online business, someone who is selling coaching or digital products, you need conversion. And those aren't the same skills. So here's the thing: likes are not revenue. Comments are not revenue. Views are not revenue. Shares are not revenue. Followers are not revenue. Now, let's be clear. All of those things do have a role to play in your business. But let's also be clear that awareness matters, discoverability matters, visibility matters. And that is what likes and shares and followers, that's the role that these things play in your content strategy. And building that awareness and building that visibility and building that discoverability. But let's also be clear about the fact that awareness is not income. Visibility is not income. Discoverability is not income. And confusing the two of those things is one of the most common and most costly mistakes that I see women make when they're trying to build an online business. I've made the mistake myself. And if you're making that mistake, there is hope, and there is so much hope for you, particularly as we continue on in this conversation. So let me talk specifically about the category of content I would like to call content that looks good, because I want to be fair to it before I complicate that type of content. So some of this content that looks good, some of it is truly excellent. I mean, it's beautiful, it's inspiring, it's entertaining, people share it, it spreads, it creates a whole vibe, right? Inherently, there is nothing wrong with that kind of content. The issue is when that's the only kind of content that you create, because that type of content is designed to do what revenue is designed to do. It's doing what it's designed to do, and what revenue requires, it's two completely different things. Because content that looks good, it typically falls into a few buckets. It's either inspirational, so it makes you feel something, it motivates you, and it gives you a boost. Or it's entertaining, it's funny, it's relatable, and it keeps you coming back. Or it's aesthetic, it's beautiful to look at, like it's real pretty, it creates a whole vibe, and it makes whoever's profile you're looking at, it makes it feel elevated and polished, right? And again, none of those things are bad, but none of them automatically create buyers. And here's the clearest way that I can explain this. There's a difference between content that makes someone feel something and content that makes someone think something. And what moves people toward a buying decision is almost always the second category. Now, let me give you a more concrete example. So if I post something like, don't give up on your dreams, people might like it. They might even share it. They might leave a comment that says, you know what? I needed this today. And I would feel real good about that, right? I mean, it's happened before and it does make you feel good. But nobody who saw that post knows what I help people do. Nobody knows what my skills are. Nobody knows what problem I solve. Nobody has a reason to even consider to pull out their credit card and pay me anything. Now, compare that post to something like 3 reasons talented women struggle to turn their skills to income. Now, that post is doing something completely different, right? It's speaking to a problem. It is signaling that I understand something specific. It's making someone who has that exact struggle stop and pay attention to it. And it's not because I made them feel inspired. It's because I made them feel like that particular post was written specifically about them. Now, one of those posts might outperform algorithmically in likes, right? I already talked a little bit about how these platforms reward engagement. So one of those posts might outperform the other in engagement, in likes and shares and comments and all those things, right? But only one of those posts is building a pipeline. And that right there is the distinction that a lot of business owners miss. Because social media, it trains us to ask, will people engage with this? But if you're building a business, the question you need to be asking is, will this piece of content create demand? And those are different questions. And once you start asking yourself the second one, you start to evaluate your content completely different. You start to look at it through a completely different lens. Here's the thing. Earlier this year, I kicked off my YouTube channel earlier this year, right? But when I was still working my 9 to 5 and I started kind of slowly rolling out her income edit, I made the decision at the latter part of last year, at the latter part of 2025, to re-engage my Instagram audience. And so I was posting 5 days a week. I still post 5 days a week over there. I was posting 5 days a week and I was rotating between reels and carousels because reels, and I don't know if this is true still, but at the time that I started, because let me pause, because we know Instagram changes the rules of the game literally every day. But when I started slowly rolling out her income edit, reels were to attract or to get in front of your current audience or to new audiences, and your carousels were to get in front of your current audience, right? So I was doing a mix of content like everybody says that you should do, like I was trained to do, like I used to recommend other people to do. And I did that for 6 months prior to uploading my very first YouTube video on this YouTube channel and re-engaging this audience. I did Instagram for 6 months prior to that. 6 months. I was doing, it wasn't just pretty content, but yes, some of the content was pretty. I knew enough not to just be focused on the aesthetics or the inspiration or the entertainment, right? There was some of that stuff mixed in, but it was done in a strategic kind of way. Well, I get up to February earlier this year, 2026, start my YouTube channel. The very first day I posted a YouTube video, I got a sale. The very first day I got a sale. On Instagram, I was doing it for 6 months, 0 sales. I don't even think I got a lead in that 6 months, not even a lead. 6 months consistency, focusing on, building the business, focusing on getting in front of the right audience. Why? Because the algorithm, the platforms, they reward the engagement piece. So my content wasn't necessarily getting the engagement that the platform wanted my content to get in order to start to prioritize it and to show it in front of people. But I was there for a business purpose. And then I had to make a business decision because I was doing a mix of these really customized reels. And I explained the reels earlier in this episode, but I was doing these customized reels and all of this inspirational content on Thursdays. I think I was doing it on Thursdays. And, these other carousel posts that I was doing for my current audience, like it takes a lot of time. And when you're building a business alongside your 9 to 5, like I was, and like I teach my clients how to do, you don't have time to invest in things that are not moving the needle in your business. And that is another reason why this conversation is so very important. So I decided, after I looked at the metrics, to really go all in on YouTube and keep Instagram warm. Now, that was very tangential in this conversation, but I think it is very important as you're looking at building things alongside your 9 to 5, as you're looking at transitioning from your 9 to 5, or if you're in a place like you got laid off and you're like, I need to do something right away. You have to do things that are going to move the needle in your business, not the things that make you feel good, right? Not the things that you see everybody else doing. You have to do the things that move the needle in your business. So if content that looks good is focused on feeling and aesthetics and inspiration, what is the content that is paying you? What is it doing differently than that? And the simplest answer that I can give you is it is demonstrating your expertise. Like that is the one job. Like your content has one job. And it's not entertainment, it is not aesthetics, it's not inspiration, it's expertise. And this doesn't mean that people won't be inspired by your content. It's not to say that people won't feel motivated by your content, but literally the one job of your content as a business owner, as someone who is building options outside of their 9 to 5, the one job of your content is to demonstrate your skills. Because people don't buy content. They buy solutions. They buy confidence. They buy the certainty that someone can help them get a result that they want and haven't been able to reach that result by themselves. And content, listen, content, why I love it so much, and I literally built my entire corporate career around this, it is one of the most powerful tools that you have for demonstrating that you are that person, that you're the person that can help someone move from point A to point B in a way that they can't figure it out on themselves on their own. Like content is a powerful mechanism for that. Like I truly believe that everybody should be on social media, but it needs to be intentional. And content that pays you, it tends to do one of 4 things. It either identifies a problem that your audience has, it explains why that problem exists, it solves part of that problem, or it helps your audience see the problem that they have differently than they did before. And that is the whole framework. And notice what is not on that list. No viral moments, no trending audio, no fancy editing, no perfectly curated Instagram grid. None of that is required to do this. What is required is helping someone think differently, helping someone see something that they couldn't see before, helping someone move even one step closer to a result that they care about. Because every single piece of content you create is essentially answering one question in the mind of your audience. And that question is, why should I trust you? Every time a new audience member comes across your content and you are a business owner, they are asking, what's in it for me and why should I trust you? And every time you answer that question well, you build authority, and authority builds trust. And trust opens the door to conversations. And guess what happens when you start having conversations? That is where sales happen. And that's the sequence: authority, trust, conversations, sales. Authority, trust, conversations, sales. Authority, trust, conversation, sales. And most business owners, they are trying to jump straight from the content to sales. And they completely skip the trust building in the middle. And then they wonder why nobody's buying what they're trying to sell. And the other thing that I want to say about content that pays is that it doesn't have to be complicated. And in fact, some of the most effective content that I've ever seen, and some of the content that's worked best in my own business, is incredibly simple, y'all. It's not the most beautifully produced content. It doesn't have the highest production value, but it speaks very, very clearly to a specific problem for a specific person, and it makes that person feel seen. And that feeling of being seen, that right there is trust in the making. So remember the sequence, right? Remember, I was going to ask somebody to drop it in the chat, but for some reason, the chat is not working on live. But if you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop that sequence: authority, trust, conversations, sales. Authority, trust, conversations, and sales, right? And I want to get a little bit more personal here just for another minute. because this lesson didn't just become an intellectual thing for me this year. It became very real in a real way that I couldn't ignore, right? So I talked a little bit about the Instagram situation versus the YouTube situation and how important it is for you to really understand where you're spending your time while you're building along your full-time job, right? So on March 4th, 2026, I was laid off from my job. And like I've shared before, it wasn't just the loss of a job for me. It was the loss of predictability. It was the loss of knowing exactly where my income was coming from. Listen, I was getting paid in full and on time every single time. It was the loss of a certain kind of stability that I built my life around, my livelihood around. Even when I was doing this thing. I was building her income edit on the side. So even when I logically knew that her income edit was always going to be a plan, I still experienced loss. And when that happened, something shifted in the way that I looked at my content. It did. This is why I went back to Instagram. All of this, what I'm getting ready to tell you, this is why I went back to Instagram, because all of a sudden, the metrics that I knew moved the needle on that platform, it felt a whole lot less interesting to me, I was not interested anymore. I was sitting there. I wasn't sitting there asking anymore how many people like something or how many views did I get. I was asking how many conversations did this piece of content start? How many leads was I getting? How many sales did it create? Right? So I had to listen. Just like that, I turned on the drop of a dime. And the thing about it is, I wanted to know if this piece of content, did it lead people to reach out to me as a result of it? Did this piece of content lead to more opportunities? Because when revenue is no longer optional, like when you are in a position that I was in, when your business is not a side business, it's not a side hustle, it's not a side plan anymore, when it becomes the only plan, your entire relationship with content changes. And that's what happened for me. So I started looking at my content catalog through a different lens. I started looking at it differently. And what I found was that some of the content I was most proud of, it wasn't moving people toward an offer. It wasn't creating demand. It wasn't connecting my skills to a problem that someone needed to be solved. Now the content looked good. You can go on my Instagram account and see it right now. You can see a clear difference. The content looked good and people were responding to it. The moment that I made that shift to really start to post content as a full blown business owner and not an influencer or a content creator, when I made that shift, y'all, I'm going to be very honest, my metrics dropped, engagement went down, views went down drastically, likes went down, comments went down. But here's the thing. I'm building a pipeline now. So that old content wasn't really building a pipeline. I did it consistently for 6 months and got not one sale or lead. Okay. And so then I started to really think about, okay, so what is some of the simpler stuff that I'm doing? Because remember, what really prompted me it wasn't just the layoff, it was also the fact that, hey, you know what? I'm over here on YouTube doing this thing, and this is what's happening over here. I've been doing in a month, and I've been doing this thing over here for 6 months. So I had to really take a look and really audit my content. And the thing about it is, the content that was moving people towards where I needed them to be, that content almost felt too plain, felt too direct. It is a whole lot less polished. But here's the thing. This is where the conversions and the conversations were coming from. Remember the sequence, y'all. Remember the sequence. It's authority, trust, conversations, and sales, right? Authority, trust, conversations, and sales. So the thing about it is, The content that I'm posting now, it is not prettier, but it is much more clear. And I spend time really talking about uh, the problem that I solve in plain language. It demonstrates that I understand something and it gives someone a reason to reach out to me. And that contrast right there, it gave clarity in ways that I really, really needed. Because again, for me, and I really don't want this for you to experience a layoff where you feel like, you know what, now this is the only thing that I have. I want you to do this alongside your business while you're still stable. But if you're in a position like this, just understand that your content is your silent sales force. It is working for you 24/7. It is working for you 24/7, but you have to be intentional and strategic about it. And you have to understand that your content isn't an art project. It's not an art project, it is a business function. And the question isn't whether or not your content looks good. The question is whether or not it's doing its job as the silent sales team of your business. So now, hello, 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 YouTube. Thanks so much for joining. So now I want to teach you something else besides the authority, trust, conversation, and sales sequence, because I think this is where things really get practical. And I don't want you just to leave with a mindset shift without giving you something really hands-on to work with. So if you have your notebook or your pens or whatever it is that you take notes on, if you haven't already, this might be the part of the conversation where you want to jot some things down. So if you're building income online, there are 3 types of content that your business needs. And it's not one of these types of content. It's not 2 of these types of content. It is all 3 of these types of content. And most business owners who are creating content online, they're heavy into 1 or 2 of these, and they're almost completely missing the third. And this is exactly why the revenue that they want to generate, it isn't matching the effort that they're putting into their content. So the 3 types of content are authority content, trust content, and conversion content. Oh, wait a minute. The authority, trust, right? Those are 2 things, 2 of the pillars of the sequence that I just gave to you, right? Authority, trust, and then conversion content. And I want to walk you through each one. So what does authority content look like? So this is where you demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. This is the teaching content. This is the kind of content where you break down a concept. It's literally this kind of content right here. You're sharing a framework. You are explaining common mistakes. You're walking through how something works. You're showing your audience how you think about a problem in your area of expertise. When someone watches authority content, the question that they're having answered in their head is, does this lady know what she's talking about? Because authority content, it builds credibility. It's the content that makes someone screenshot or save or text the link to this video to your friends, right? It makes them start following you because they recognize that you have expertise and skills that they want access to. So that's authority content. The second type of content that every business owner needs when you're building businesses online is trust content. And this is where you demonstrate that you have helped people like them. This is where testimonials come into the conversation, into your content strategy. This is where your client stories and your case studies live. This is where you share your own personal experiences and the lessons that you've pulled from those experiences. It's behind the scenes content that shows your process. It's where you start to share your values, your point of view on things, not just on anything, but the things that matter to your audience. So when someone engages with trust content, the question that's being answered here is, can she help someone like me? So trust content, she knows what she's talking about, and can she help me specifically? It makes your work feel accessible. It makes your work feel human. It makes your work feel real and not just impressive. That is one of the, this is another tangential point, so bear with me. Trust content, y'all. The best form of trust content is live video. Live video. Why? Because we are in an era of life where artificial intelligence is literally taking over. You cannot believe anything that you hear. You can't believe anything that you see. You can't believe anything that is told to you, because people are using artificial intelligence for everything, for everything. But live video, live content, I can't fake this. Like, this is unedited, straight, no, see, I would have edited that out. This is unedited, straight, no chaser, y'all. So the best way to build trust, it used to be just video. And I used to teach my clients this too. I used to say, listen, so many people are apprehensive to start to post videos online for whatever reasons, for various reasons, and I understand it. But it used to just be, just post a video. It's the fastest way to build trust. Not anymore. It's live video. And trust me when I say that live video is going to start to take over in a way that it never has before, specifically when it comes to online videos. Listen, you heard it here first. It might not be next week. It might not be next month. It might not even be next year, but in the next 5 years, for sure, live video is going to be the go-to for content for your business. Trust me when I say it. Now, let's get into this conversion content, because this is the category that most business owners avoid. And it's the one that matters the most for your revenue, because conversion content is where you explicitly connect your skills to an offer. So you're not just teaching and sharing. That's not the point of content. Like, the whole point of posting content as a business owner is so you can get leads and sales, period. Okay. I'm not here to be an influencer, although I might influence you to do some things. I'm not here to be a motivational speaker, although I might motivate you to do some things. I'm not here just for inspiration, although I might inspire you to do some things. I am here as a business owner. I am here to help you. I am here to serve you. I am here to lead you down a path to help you build options outside of your 9 to 5, so that you're not in the same position that I was. So conversion content is where you're going to be clear about who you help. You're going to be clear about what the problem you solve. You're going to be clear about what the outcome looks like. And you're going to be clear in this type of content about what is the next step. How can I get my problem solved? What is the next step in that? So you're telling people that you have something available to them, and you're giving them a clear path to access that thing, right? And here's the thing that I want you to hear about conversion content. It is not about being pushy. It is not about being salesy. It is not about being aggressive. It is about being clear. And there's a difference between being pushy and being clear. And a lot of women mix those things up in a way that keeps them from ever talking about their offers in their content. Being pushy, let's talk about it. Being pushy is trying to manufacture urgency that doesn't exist. I'm going to say that again. Being pushy is trying to manufacture urgency that doesn't exist. Being pushy is about pressuring someone into something that is not right for them. Listen, the reason why I am so passionate about helping women build along their 9 to 5 is because when you are in a state of urgency, a layoff happens, a life situation happens, budgets get cut. When you are in a state of urgency and emergency, you start to make decisions that might lead you to pressuring someone into something that isn't right for them because you need the money, right? It might force you into a space and into a spirit of being pushy because you need to be like your livelihood depends on this, right? But I don't want you to be in that. I want you to be clear. I don't want you to be pushy. And being clear is simply making sure that your audience understands what you do, understands who you help, and understands how they can work with you. And that is not manipulation. It's just good communication. And you're able to do that when you have stability, when you're building this thing alongside stability. You can get very, very clear. You can be very, very communicative with your audience. And here's the thing about all of this. People cannot buy something that they don't know exists. They cannot hire you if you never tell them that you can help them. They can't take any next steps if you never show them what that next step is. So conversion content isn't just a nice to have. For a business that needs revenue, it's essential. So when I look at my content calendar now, I'm looking at it through the lens of all three of these categories. Am I consistently demonstrating my expertise? Am I consistently building trust and showing that my work creates results for people? Am I consistently being clear about what I offer and who it's for? And if I'm off in any one of those three areas, I know exactly what to fix. So those are the three pieces of content that if you were my client, that I would encourage you to start posting. And that is authority content, trust content, and conversion content. So once you understand those three types of content, there's one question I want you to start asking before you create anything. And this question, it sounds simple, but listen, it will completely change how you think about your content. And that question is, what is this piece of content supposed to do? I don't want you to ask yourself, will people like this content? I don't want you to ask yourself, how many views do I think this piece of content is going to get? I don't want you to ask yourself, will this piece of content go viral? I don't want you to ask yourself, is this trending right now? I want you to ask yourself, what is this piece of content supposed to do? What job is this piece of content performing? Is it supposed to build awareness with new people who've never heard of you? Is it supposed to deepen trust with people who already follow you, but they haven't converted yet? Is this piece of content supposed to drive people toward a specific offer? Is it supposed to start conversations in the DMs or the comments? Is it supposed to get someone to click a link? What is the job of the content? What's the job? What's its function? Remember, the role of the content is to be your silent sales team. But what is its job? Every single piece of content, I want you to ask yourself that question. Because here's the problem with content that doesn't have a clear job. You can't evaluate it. So if you don't know what success looks like before you post it, you'll default to engagement as your success metric. How many views did it get? How many people gave this video a thumbs up? How many people are sharing it? Because that is what these platforms show you. And it's what's immediately visible to you, right? You can post a video. I said this earlier in this conversation. You can post a video and you immediately see how many views did it get. And not only can you see it, everybody else can see it too. Everybody else can see it. And the thing about it is, when you don't know what the goal of that content is, you're going to default to engagement, and then you'll optimize for more engagement. And that's how you get caught up into this cycle, right? Oh my gosh. I can talk on this topic, y'all, for literally like 3 or 4 hours because there's so many spokes to it. There are so many spokes to it. Okay. But I digress. And the thing is, when you optimize for engagement, you get more likes, you get more views, you get more, whatever the thing is. But guess what? That's engagement still doesn't pay your bills. It still does not pay your mortgage. It still does not pay your car note. It still does not pay tuition. It still doesn't pay for that club track or club soccer or club whatever sport your kid is in, right? And I think a lot of business owners or a lot of people who are interested in becoming online business owners, they're posting because they feel like they should be posting. Like, dang, I should be on Instagram. I should be posting because that consistency matters. And that visibility matters. So you're trying to stay visible. And you've heard that you need to show up on a consistent and regular basis. So, you're like, okay, I want to start online coaching. I want to start selling digital products. I want to create these online businesses. So I know I need to create content. And here's the thing. Every single thing that I just said is true. Consistency matters. Visibility matters. And showing up regularly matters. But consistency without intention is just more noise on the internet. It is more noise on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever your platform of choice is. And the goal will never be to create more content. It is to create more intentional content. It is to create content that has a job. It is to create content that you can evaluate against a specific business outcome. So before you write your next caption, before you script your next video, before you record your next audio, I want you to ask yourself, what is it supposed to do? And if you can't answer that question, if you can't clearly answer that question, that is your sign to stop and get clear before you start creating that piece of content. That's how you optimize your content. That is how you're going to start to turn your skills into income. And here's the thing, another thing, because I know some of you are probably in the thick of this content creation part of your business right now. You're creating content, you are trying to build income online, and you're not sure why your revenue isn't matching your effort. Content creation requires a lot of effort, y'all. To be consistent and to be visible and to show up regular, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And when you have a full-time job and a full-time life, you want the revenue to match your effort, right? So let me tell you exactly what I would do if I were starting from scratch and my goal was to use my content to generate income. I would get ruthlessly specific about 3 things. I would be ruthless about it before I even created a single piece of content. So the very first thing that I would get specific on is my audience. And I'm not talking about a broad category like women in business or professionals. I'm talking about one specific person with one specific circumstance, because the more specific you are about who you're talking to, the more every piece of content you create will feel like it was written directly for that person. And content that feels personal to your audience, it converts at a much higher rate than content that feels general. So that's the first thing that I would get specific on is audience. The second thing that I would get very specific on is the problem, not a list of problems, not a theme, an overarching theme one specific problem, okay? Not a vague idea or a vague area of struggle. One specific problem that my audience is experiencing right now and actively wants to solve, because people take action to solve problems. They don't take action because your content is pretty or entertaining or inspiring. They take action because something resonated with a pain point that they've been carrying around and they haven't been able to solve it or figure it out on their own. So the first thing is audience. And once I figured that out, the next thing I figured out is the problem that particular audience member was struggling with. And the third thing that I would do if I were starting from scratch and I was creating content that I knew from the get go, I wanted it to convert. The third thing I would get real clear on is my offer. So before I created any content, I I would need to know what I'm creating content toward. Again, I'm going to refer you to that new video on my YouTube channel that just dropped on Thursday about having accumulated nearly 20 million views on this here YouTube channel. Yes, this YouTube channel. I accumulated nearly 20 million views. But go and I don't want to spoil it for you, so go watch the video. Okay? Because the point of it all is that content that doesn't lead to anything, like what are we doing? Like what is the offer I'm building awareness and trust for and authority for? Like what is the next step that I want my audience to take? Because content that isn't connected to an offer, it's content that is just literally floating in the air and adding to the noise of the internet. It might be great. It might be great. It might get amazing engagement, y'all. But if it's not building a pipeline because there's nowhere for your audience to go, like what are we doing? So if I were doing this from scratch, once I got clear on those three things, my audience, my problem, and my offer, then every piece of content that I create will be doing one of two things. It will be building authority and trust around that problem, or it will be creating a clear path to an offer. And then over time, that consistency is what's going to create revenue for you, not volume, not a viral moment. It creates consistency around a clear message aimed at the right person and connected to an offer. And the truth is, listen, most business owners in the online space, they don't have a content problem. They have a clarity problem. So their audience doesn't fully understand what they do. Like, have you been on a YouTube channel or an Instagram account or, TikTok or Facebook or whatever the thing is? Have you ever been there and you're like, well, one moment they're talking about this, the next moment they're talking about that, and you're not really clear on what this person is doing, right? Like, what is the problem that you solve? Like, I hear you kind of talking about it, but what is it? I've seen it. I've seen it even in some of my circles of business owners. It's like, okay, girl, you say that you're doing this, but does your audience really see you as that? Yeah, so most business owners, they're missing the clarity piece. They're missing the clarity piece because their audience doesn't fully understand what they do. They don't fully understand the specific problem that this business owner is solving. Their audience doesn't know how to take the next step, even if they wanted to. So even if you're watching, you're like, oh my gosh, this person has built authority. This person has built trust with me. So now I want to work with this person. I want to know what the next step is. I want to invest in solving the problem. How do I do it? And the thing is, when clarity is missing, revenue is usually missing right along with it. That's just the way this thing goes, y'all. Hello, hello, hello on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining. I see the love. I see the love. Thank you so much for showing me love. I appreciate it. So, if you take one thing from this episode, this is the thing that I want you to take. The goal isn't to become a content creator, a better content creator, I should say. It's not for you to become an influencer. The goal is to become a better problem solver because businesses don't get paid for posting. Like, I don't get paid for showing up here on Nick at Noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Mountain Time. Not yet. Once my channel gets monetized again, then I will. But right now I don't, right? Like I'm just doing this because I know how important those three pillars that I walked you through in terms of the three pieces of content that I would post if I was starting from scratch. I know how important that is. So the goal for me is not to be a better content creator. The goal for me and for you is to be a better problem solver, because businesses don't get paid for posting. They don't get paid for being consistent. They don't get paid for beautiful branding or great aesthetics or high engagement rates, more or less, right? Because there are opportunities that exist for those specific purposes. Like you can monetize on YouTube through the YouTube Partner Program. You can monetize on other platforms where you do get paid for being consistent and all of those things. But when you're first starting out, when you are building this thing alongside your full-time job and your full-time life, chances are you're not there yet. So when you're first starting out, that's not where the money's coming from. Businesses get paid for solving problems, period. Every single business you think of, they're being paid because they're solving problems. And your content is a tool that you use to communicate that you know how to solve the problem. So if your content isn't generating income right now, producing and posting more content is probably not the answer. In fact, it's not the answer. More clarity is the answer. More specificity is the answer. You need a stronger, more direct connection between what you know and the problem you solve, because that, in my experience, in my corporate experience, and in my experience as a coach, that's what's usually missing. And that right there is exactly why I created 2K in 2 hours, because I kept seeing talented women. I'm talking about women who have the skills, who have the expertise, who have the experience. I kept seeing these women creating content for months and months and months without ever connecting it to an offer that people could pay for. Remember, that's that third piece of content, that conversion piece. Like they had everything they needed. They just didn't have the clarity or the structure to package their skills into something that created income for them, that actually generated revenue into their business. And that's what 2K in 2 hours helps you do. It helps you identify what you already know. It helps you shape it into an offer. It helps you position it around a problem that your audience has. It helps you create a foundation for income without needing a huge, massive audience, without needing a fancy website or years of content built up before you ever see a single sale. Because the question isn't, how do I create better content? The question is, how do I turn what I know into revenue? And that is what I help you uncover and discover inside of 2K in 2 hours. It is a micro course, and you can get more information about it and enroll in this micro course on my website at herincomeedit.com/2K, or you can click the link that is down in the description. So if today's episode was helpful to you, was useful to you at all, I want you to share it with a woman who is working hard at this thing, but she is still wondering why her content isn't converting. Because I truly believe that if you found this video helpful, so will she. And if you're watching the replay, because we know that for whatever reason, the live chat is disabled. Thank you, YouTube, for disabling the chat. But whatever. I want you to drop a comment and tell me, have you been optimizing your content for attention, or have you been optimizing your content for income? Because I really want to see where we are in this community, okay? I want to thank each and every single one of you for popping in and out of this live. Happy Monday, happy new week. Listen, content that converts is the whole reason why we're doing this. Like, we're not doing this to be, well, I'm not doing it. And I don't train my clients to. Most of the clients that I work with, they don't want to be influencers. They want to create options for themselves beyond their 9 to 5, because they know that one paycheck is a very fragile place to be, particularly in this economy. Like, we are in a whole new world, y'all. Like, we can't We can't just depend on our employers as a source, the sole source for our financial safety, okay? So, content that converts is the name of the game. Our content is our silent sales team. It is literally working for us 24 hours a day. You create that piece of content once and it will literally work for you, but you have to have it set up with number one, what is the content supposed to do before I post it? And then think about, is this a authority content piece of content? Is this a trust piece of content? Is this a conversion piece of content, right? So if you're just joining and you missed the conversation about how you start to create content that converts, I encourage you to watch the replay on my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for popping in and out of this conversation. Thanks so much for the love on Instagram. I don't know what's going on with the chat. Hopefully we get that figured out by Wednesday. My name is Nick Scott. This is Nick at Noon. Don't forget to check out 2K in 2 hours by visiting my website at herincomeedit.com/2K, or you can click the link down in the description. This is Nick at Noon. I am here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Mountain Time. Thanks so much for joining. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you don't miss a beat, all right? I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.